The Second Region Child Protection Court number 1, Liberty County, is now in session for an adversary hearing. Is the department ready?
We're ready, Judge. I would like to see the mother's indigency affidavit.
All right. And Ms. Moore, are you ready?
Actually, Judge, I would like to speak to the attorneys in chambers along with Tracy Mays so that we could possibly talk about a resolution.
All right. I think we can afford you all that opportunity momentarily. Ms. Iverson, are you ready?
I'm not, Judge. It took some doing to find where my client was. It turns out he's in prison in Salem, Oregon. So I have finally located him, but just not in time to get anything set up so that he could participate, nor have I been able to actually have contact with him, although I expect I will be able to arrange that later today. I hope I will. I can't say I expect. I'm hoping.
All right. Thank you. Ms. McGee, are you ready?
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes, I am ready, Judge, but I would like that opportunity to speak with the attorneys.
Okay, very good. And I'm also prepared to confer virtually with the oldest child, AA. We do have a court reporter. So if and when we need to do that, I will do that. If the hearing is contested, I'll most likely hear the case before conferring with the child before rendering, if at all. So let me place you all in a breakout room. And whom do we need besides the attorneys? I heard Ms. Mays. Who else?
Ms. Mays. That's all.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Hipp, Ms. Mays, Ms. McGee, Ms. Iverson, Ms. Moore, stand by. We'll see if I remember how to do this.
Lori Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
Lori Moore sent a text and wanted to let you know they are making progress.
Okay, thank you. Of course.
You're welcome.
We've been wondering and hoping. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I had a trial in Polk County and they pushed the prisoner's time of arrival. So Ms. Adams took it back.
Okay.
But I certainly can be on Johnson.
Okay. Well, I've not called the Johnson matter. I have Mr. Hipp. I show that Mr. Hipp is on the Johnson case, and you're not officially scheduled until 1:30 in the Brown and Broughton matter, correct?
Well, I think I also I noticed on the docket that Drake is on there for a compliance issue on the or aid to investigate.
Okay, I don't think I show that.
Maybe that changed.
I see Mr. Downing. Mr. Downing, on the Johnson matter, you probably know this, but Mr. Buck is tied up in Montgomery County, so we're waiting on him.
Yes, Your Honor. I've had some communication with Mr. Buck this morning.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, I will follow the Johnson case as soon as I can.
Your Honor, on the Johnson case, will it be on YouTube?
Well, it will, unless there is good cause for it not to be, and I'll certainly take up that as a threshold matter.
I don't know what all we will get into, but for the best interest of the children, I would request that it not be.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Foyle. We will certainly address that at the top when we get to the Johnson matter.
Yes, Your Honor.
On the Drake matter, let's see if we have Ms. Dick.
I am, Your Honor. I think that Mr. Hipp is going to go ahead and take Johnson, so I'm going to get off.
Okay, I just wanted to mention something on the Drake matter.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it does look like that case showed up for a hearing on a working docket, a docket that was under construction. It did not end up on today's final updated docket. So if you all cannot reach an agreement, I would have time to hear you all on November the 3rd.
Thank you, Your Honor, so much. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
Thank you all. So we'll see you at 1:30.
Thank you. All right.
What case?
It was Drake. It's just an order to investigate. I have with Mr. Downing, but I think we're going to be able to work it out. It originally was on the docket at one point, but it's not now.
Okay, I don't need to do that one.
No, you do not. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I think they were, you've met with her client and her just now?
Yes, sir, I have.
Just now. Okay,
Yes,
very
sir.
good. So they kick you out?
Yes, they asked me to leave.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. There has been a request, Mr. Buck, and so far an agreement for me to consider taking the Johnson hearing, if it goes to a hearing, off of YouTube.
I would have no objection.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ma'am?
The hearing, Emma.
Ma'am?
I'm not interrupting a hearing, Emma.
You are not, unfortunately.
Okay, we are ready to prove up our agreement. My client doesn't know how to come out of the breakout room, so if you could close it, that would help. And
I shall.
also wanted to remind the court that I have a Zoom hearing at 11 in Hardin County, so I have to be out of here about 5 minutes before 11.
Okay, all right, and you're not on Johnson, correct?
No.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Hip is in a breakout room with Mr. Downing on the Johnson matter. So are we ready to prove it up to the point that I can bring him back in?
Yes.
All right, so maybe somebody can give him and Mr. Downing heads up.
We'll do
I'll
that.
close the room. It takes sometimes as much as a minute.
And are you going to want to do indigency questions first or the agreement first?
Indigency.
Okay.
Mhm. And so, Ms. McGee, are you in agreement on the Apodaca matter?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And your client, AA, I showed that she's not quite 12. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
And-
So, from your point of view, would it be okay? Obviously, you've announced your agreement. Would it be okay to defer any conference with her?
Correct, Your Honor. I don't think it's no longer needed based on the agreement we were able to work out today.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
Judge.
Mr. Hip. Mr. Hip, thank you. I pulled you out because it's my understanding that you all might have an agreement and it might be ready to be proven up in Apodaca.
We were very close. I don't know because
Yes, we have an agreement.
she agrees.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. No answer. No one is in the waiting room at all. If somehow you were by phone or otherwise, please unmute your device or press *6 if you're on a phone and announce your appearance. Tommy Apodaca. Okay. My understanding is he's incarcerated maybe in Oregon, Ms. Iverson.
Yes, sir. In Salem,
Okay.
Oregon.
Okay. All right. So my understanding is there is an agreement among the parties
Yes.
present. Thank you. That's everyone. So we will take up the matter of indigence first. And so Ms. Hemingway has been sworn in, and I'll let you call your client on that narrow issue at this point this morning.
Okay. Ms. Hemingway, can you tell the court how many hours per week that you work?
I work 40,
And what's your hourly pay?
20.
Okay. Now, initially you told CPS you were working 70 hours per week. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So why were you working 70 hours per week then and you're working 40 now?
Production was up then and it's down now.
Okay. So what is your take home pay every single month?
2,900.
2,900?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me how much you pay in rent,
950.
electricity,
About 150.
okay, Wi-Fi,
80.
water,
I don't pay for water.
you pay for trash?
I do.
Okay, how much is
2350.
that? 23, okay. Phone,
80.
car payment,
530.
gas for the car.
About 250.
Do you have gas in the home?
No.
insurance for the car?
178.
Now you get food stamps, correct?
That is correct.
How much extra do you spend per month in food?
About 300.
Okay, you don't get that much in food stamps, right?
No.
Okay. You also have money coming out for your 401k that starts next month in November. How much will that be?
About 150.
And how much comes out for your health insurance?
185.12.
Is that every month or 2 times per month?
2 times per month for
Okay.
for the 401 and medical.
Okay, so the 401k is 300 per month.
Correct.
Is that what you allotted to have taken out, or is that what they require that you take out? Like, do they have a certain minimum that they require and they put in for you, and that's that minimum, or no?
No, that's not the minimum.
The 150 is not the minimum?
No.
So you're doing extra?
Yes, I'm doing a little extra.
Okay, so what, 300 a month for the 401k, 370, roughly 370 a month for the health insurance. How much do you spend on toiletries or cleaning products?
I'd say about 100.
Okay, and then what about if you had to average it out for the year for like clothes and shoes and haircuts with the girls and yourself, and then break it down, divide it by 12, how much would you say for that?
Oh, I would say maybe 500, not much.
So 500 a year?
Yeah.
Okay. What other expenses do you have?
I've got two loans that I'm trying to pay off. One's 158 a month.
158. Okay, and what's the other?
58.
Okay. Anything else?
Lawn care,
Okay, how much is that?
$100 a month.
And that's required per your lease that you keep the lawn up,
Yes.
and you don't have a lawnmower?
I don't, not yet.
Okay. What
Working
else?
on it.
What else do you pay per month?
Car note, insurance, well, that's it.
Okay. Do you own any real property, so homes or land that you can sell?
No,
Do you own any vehicles that you can sell, like campers, RVs, extra cars?
no,
Do you own any jewelry or any expensive antique items that you can sell?
no.
Do you have a checking and a savings account?
I have a checking,
How much is in your checking?
negative $45 right now.
Okay. Do you have any cash on your person or in your home or in your car?
No.
Okay. Pass witness.
I don't have
Alright.
any questions.
Okay, all right. Any questions, Ms. Iverson or Ms. McGee, on the issue of indigence?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Hemingway, you are the mother of KA and AA children, the subject of the suit.
Yes.
Okay, and my understanding is you were in agreement with the department being named the temporary managing conservator.
No, that's not our agreement, Judge.
It's not?
No. Do you want me to go over the agreement now?
Is it a services agreement?
Yes. And so we have agreed to court-ordered services. The children will be returned this afternoon. The caseworker will see the home this afternoon when she comes. My client will take a hair follicle test today to be there before 3 p.m. That will be in the Baytown area, and CPS will send us the address for her to go. My client agrees to do a psychological. My client agrees to do individual counseling. There will be no contact between the children and Brandon Sharp or Gina Sharp. And I do have the correct spelling of the names, Richard. I'll send that to you. I'll send it now, actually.
Did we fix it?
I haven't checked. I just wrote it down.
Okay.
So if you're ready, Judge, I can ask her prove-up questions on that.
Okay, so if I only heard a hair follicle by 3 today,
Yes.
no urinalysis?
No.
Okay, so if the hair follicle should be positive for anything,
Then we are going to have to completely readdress this situation, but I think that we're all confident it won't be positive.
all right, so I did not hear any agreement for an ADAC or drug and alcohol assessment at this point, correct?
Not at this point. Depends. It's all going to depend on that hair follicle.
Okay. All right. So I did not hear, I heard a psychological, but I did not hear follow any recommendations.
We did not mention that in our agreement. I think depending on the recommendations, we'll be at FBSS at that point. We can talk to them and work out whatever we need to.
And then individual counseling.
Yes, I will let everyone know that my client, since she does have insurance, she is intending to use her own insurance provider, and she will make sure to get that information to the department.
All right.
And a release.
Yes, she'll sign a release for those records. Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. She's not going to get the records. She'll just sign a release that y'all can have those.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. And then no contact between any of the children and Brandon or Gina Sharp.
Correct.
Okay. And what is their relationship, if any, to the children?
Fictive kin.
Are they?
Mother's boyfriend and his mother.
All right. So they've not been in placement heretofore.
No. And then just that the kids come home today.
PCSP. Okay.
My client will be leaving after the hearing. Her first stop will be to go get the kids enrolled in the school that she is zoned for. And then as long as the 2054 is done, she will go do the hair test. So the department was going to return the kids a little bit later today to give her time to get all of those things done.
Then, Mr. Hip, you may call your client.
Ms. Mays, and you heard the agreement that Ms. Moore outlined?
Yes, sir.
And is that the department's agreement as well?
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Moore.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone for Ms. Mays? Ms. Iverson, Ms. McGee?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other witnesses, Mr. Hip?
Ms. Martin? And did you hear that agreement as well?
Yes, I heard the agreement.
And do you believe that's in the children's best interest?
I'm not sure that CASA can have an opinion on that, as far as we're not supposed to, our policies and procedures don't allow us to say whether TMC or FBSS.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Have you seen the mother's home?
I have not seen the home in person. I've seen it on a Zoom call, and it looked clean and neat and appropriate.
Okay. And that was going to be my next question. Was it appropriate?
Yes.
Thank you. That's what it is.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from anyone for Ms. Martin?
No questions.
All right. Thank you. So, Ms. Martin, you probably know, I'm sure, that if the court approves this agreement and orders this case to family-based safety services, that CASA will no longer be a part of the case, as the family code doesn't envision a guardian ad litem for a child in those cases.
Yes, sir. I'm aware of that.
So as always, we thank you for your service. Should I do that?
Thank you.
All right. So let me pause right here. The court does find that the mother, Christy Hemingway, is indigent for the purposes of an attorney ad litem in this case, and I will continue Ms. Moore's appointment. Okay, Ms. Moore, Mr. Hip, if you don't have any other questions of Ms. Martin or any other witnesses.
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moore, you may call your client.
Okay. Ms. Hemingway, you heard the agreement that I announced to the court, right?
Yes.
Is that the agreement that you made today?
Yes.
All right. Now, you've had an opportunity to speak with me multiple times and to get all of your questions answered, correct?
Correct.
Are you satisfied with the contact you've had with me and with the content of our conversations?
Yes.
All right. You understand that you have a right to have a hearing today and to make CPS prove their case and let the judge make a decision, right?
Yes.
But in spite of that, you're choosing to agree to this court-ordered services. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you believe that that's in the best interest of your children, correct?
Correct.
And you are not in any way admitting that what's in the affidavit is true, are you?
Yes.
You are not admitting what's in the affidavit is true, are you?
Yes, correct. I'm
Correct
not.
that you're not admitting. Okay.
Yes,
Just wanted to make sure. Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hip.
No questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Iverson.
No questions, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McGee.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other witnesses, Ms. Moore?
No other witnesses, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Iverson, any witnesses?
No, sir. No witnesses.
Okay, let me ask the department.
I do have,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hip.
can, and Ms. Moore can tell me, but was the mother and the father of these kids married?
Ms. Hemingway?
No, we were not.
Okay, but there's a decree out of Oregon.
Yes, I got it.
It established him as the father of the children.
Correct. And then when I got custody in Idaho, it went over to Idaho.
What county in Idaho?
Ada County.
Ada?
Yes.
ADA?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and should the court approve the agreement to family-based safety services, I think all questions concerning EECJ and so on and so forth will be moot, as the department will not be taking custody. So how much longer is Mr. Apodaca going to be incarcerated, Ms. Hemingway? Do you know?
The last time I heard, another 3 years.
Okay, so I'm assuming the department is not asking him to work any services.
That I know of, no.
Well, I'm asking the department. It wouldn't make sense to me at this point. Not to telegraph my opinion, but is that correct?
I'm unaware of the department wanting any services from.
All right. All right. So these orders will just be as to the respondent mother. Okay. Any other witnesses from anyone?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hip, let me ask you, in terms of a date for the compliance hearing, I would have January the 5th or February the 2nd. And I bet we don't have anybody from Family Based here.
Probably not.
What were the dates, Judge? January 6th or February 2nd?
January 5th.
Right. January 5th or February the 2nd. Dismissal date will be March the 25th.
Can I request January 5th?
I would like that too.
Okay. Any objections, Ms. McGee? Ms. Iverson,
No
will
objection.
okay, thank you. Ms. Iverson will thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
And would that be at 9 a.m., Judge?
Yes, ma'am. 9.
May I have permission for my client to appear virtually if she's working that day?
If she's working that day, she may.
Okay.
Or if she is at a service that day, pursuant to her service plan. There's nothing else at this time. The court will approve the agreement, will remove the department as the temporary managing conservator of the children, will approve the agreement that envisions the mother to pick up the children as soon as possible. The court does hereby.
Judge, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I have to interrupt you. CPS is going to need to bring them over.
Is going to need to what?
Bring the kids home.
Okay, that's fine. And you all, I believe, have worked out a time roughly.
Yes.
Okay, relative to the 3 o'clock deadline to do the hair follicle. Okay, is there any reason for me to order an alternate site or fingernail test in lieu of a hair follicle? Is there any reason to do that? Because I might need to get that into the order if there is.
That
No.
would be it.
Okay, so if that's needed, get that in the order. I'll sign it as soon as I see it. So then the mother then is ordered under this agreement hereby to submit to a hair follicle before 3 o'clock today. Also to submit to a psychological evaluation, also to individual counseling, and the mother is ordered to not permit any contact of any kind whatsoever between either of the children and or Brandon and or Jessica or Gina Sharp. Okay, again, the court sets the dismissal date in this case for March the 25th, 2024. Our next hearing is for a compliance hearing. It is hereby set for January the 5th, at 9 a.m. The court would find good cause to allow the mother to appear virtually. If we're still doing that, my guess is we will be, if she is either at work or on her way to or participating in one of her services by way of her service plan. Okay, anything else from anyone else? Right, thank you all very much for your very good and hard work in this case. Mom, I know you will get to work on your services as soon as you can, and I wish you well on that. And we'll look forward to hearing a whole lot of good news in that regard on January the 5th at 9 a.m. In terms of the all right, thank you all very much. You are excused on the Apodaca matter.
Judge, my client he's at work and he is going to be participating, but visual is not going to be possible. It'll just lead to all kinds of issues with the whole thing. So apologies, we did try, but he's going to have to be just audio.
All right, thank you. Okay, yes, thank you, Ms. Iverson. I believe we have Ms. Brown coming into the courtroom. All right, with all of the attorneys present, my scorecard shows that we left off with the mother on the stand. Ms. Moore, you were questioning her regarding her home, pets, and the 2 transition visits and how the child did with the pets, if I believe.
Yes, and I've sent some exhibits. I don't know if everybody's gotten those, if they are agreeing to that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have. Okay, thank you, Ms. McGee.
I have no objections, Your Honor.
All right, so the court is in receipt of those, I believe, although I've not opened the attachments. And I believe, Ms. Brown, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. For a motion to participate, the court will note that the mother is present. So we heard that the father is at work and he's going to need to appear by phone with no audio necessarily, but let me call for him right now. Jacob Broughton. All right, we expect him a little later then. All right. With that, do you want to go ahead and offer your exhibits, Ms. Moore? I don't believe there were any objections.
Yes, they will be respondent mothers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
About number 3, respondent mothers number 3.
Did we lose Miss Dick?
You know, it appears that we did. Thank you for your.
I don't think she was here when you asked for 1 or 2 either.
Okay. All right. You all correct me if I'm wrong. We'll of course give her time to reconnect. I have a storm on the horizon here, so I don't know what the weather's like where she is or you all are. I thought she was the first to say no objections.
I believe she was, but I just want to give her an opportunity.
Oh, Judge, this Miss Williams, her phone just went down with her computer, so she's gonna log back on via phone.
Okay, are her last 3 039?
I think so.
Okay, Ms. Dick, it looks like you got your computer back, at least for the time being.
I am so sorry. That was odd. And then I, of course, signed on to the November 3rd hearing instead of this one.
Oh, well, did you finish it or do we still need to hold it?
No, I didn't finish it.
You were undefeated, right, on that one? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So, well, given the weather, this may not be the last time that this happens today. So, I believe everyone is here. Parents, respondent parents are both present. Okay, Ms. Brown, you are on the witness stand, as it were. Let me remind you that you are still under oath. And let's see. I believe the rule had been invoked.
Yes.
And so, help me out. So, who is your representative, Ms. Dick? Is it Ms. Mays?
It is.
Okay. All right. So you all might help me look. I don't believe that anyone is in the virtual courtroom that should not be pursuant to the rules. So with that, Ms. Moore, you may proceed when you're ready.
Okay. We were going over the exhibits, Judge.
Yes, that's
1,
right.
2, 3,
And so it is hereby admitted. Okay. And I have enabled screen share when you need it.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Brown, are you there? Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is number 1, exhibit number 1. What are we looking at here?
This is a photo from the front door showing the kitchen area, the baby's toys, where he has his toy storage.
Okay, do you see my arrow pointing here?
Yes, ma'am. That is the guest bathroom.
Ms. Moore?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Could you maybe enlarge that? We're getting a little bit of your monitor there, kind of as a sidebar.
Let's see. I can. It's going to take me just a second. And now this, do you see where my mouse is pointing?
Yes, ma'am.
That door, what does that go to?
That is the guest bathroom.
Okay. And then what is this a picture of?
This is from standing in the kitchen, looking back at the front door. This is the living room.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you had cats. Is this one of the cats that you have?
That is one of the cats that insisted on being in every photo, yes.
Okay. Now, when your child is over and that cats are there, how does the baby do with the cats?
He has actually not met that one in the picture, but that one's kind of afraid of everything, so I'm not worried about him. I have an older cat also that just kind of follows the baby around, stays wherever he's playing. The baby doesn't really interact with him.
Okay. And then number 3, this is the other view. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then back through this door where my mouse is pointing, is that where his bedroom is?
That is the master bedroom.
Okay, so his bedroom would be on the other side. My mouse is pointing. Is that where his bedroom is?
That is the master bedroom.
Okay, so his bedroom would be on the other side?
To the right of the guest bathroom door.
Okay, and we don't have pictures of that because it's just a empty room, right?
Correct.
All right, so just to remind the court, you sent his furniture and everything to Nikki, the placement's home, when he went.
Correct.
There, right? Okay, we were talking about your dogs last time, and you said that you had 2 shelter dogs. You were talking about them being kenneled. Can you, and then you said that they were outside. So can you tell me how the dogs get along with your son?
So I try to limit interaction just because one of them is a lot bigger than him. They have interacted. He's honestly a little bit afraid of animals for the most part. So I kind of, you can see from the picture how our couch runs parallel and kind of makes like a little tunnel to the front door. The baby will pretty much go on the other side of the couch anytime the dogs go from their room to outside. So they don't really interact.
Okay. Now you mentioned last time that you don't believe in the dogs running loose in the house with the baby.
With the baby, just because he's little, they're big, and to be perfectly honest, their manners are not super impeccable.
Okay, so to protect the baby, you wouldn't, for
Correct.
instance, be cooking and have the baby kind of running free and the dogs running free.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you mentioned
Ms. Moore, excuse me again. I have 2 people that have just shown up in the waiting room, Ms. Monso, and then a 936 number ending in 0718071.
That's Miss Bain, Carol Bain.
Okay, so I'm going to bring them into the courtroom, admonish them since we are live streaming on YouTube, given the rule, and make sure they're not listening on YouTube. All right, Ms. Moore, you may continue.
Okay, so you wouldn't be cooking and then have the baby kind of, and I say baby, I mean, he's basically a toddler, but have him running around with the dogs also running around, would you?
Correct.
So you mentioned previously that you have a kennel for the dogs and that they could also be outside. So if it is raining outside, where's their kennel?
Their kennels are in the house. They both have an individual wire kennel in a room that has a baby gate. That way they can also be loose in the room with a baby gate.
Okay, and they don't jump over or get through the baby gate.
Absolutely.
All right, so if there were inclement weather, or if it was 200 degrees outside, or it felt like 200 degrees outside, they would be able to also be safe.
Yes.
Okay. Now you went to Tri-County for a mental health assessment. Is that correct?
Correct.
And was Tri-County willing to give you any services?
No, the woman that I spoke.
Wait, hold on.
Sorry.
This is Exhibit 4. Is this the letter that you received from Tri-County?
Yes.
Okay. And you did not qualify for services from them, did you?
Correct.
Okay. You saw that Miss Carol Bain is here just a moment ago, right?
Yes.
Now, you did a chemical dependency assessment with her in August of 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did she do anything else with you?
She did, I guess it would be chemical dependency based sessions, like individual sessions.
Okay. So she did sessions, not just the
Correct.
dependency assessment.
Correct.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Iverson.
I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. McGee.
Thank you. Just a few, Ms. Brown, there was some testimony on the first day. I don't think we ever cleared it up, but the question was, when was the last time that you used meth? And I believe your answer was somewhere around the last hair follicle. Are you able to give at least a month and the year of your last use of meth?
To be honest with you, I don't even remember when that last hair follicle was, but I mean, it was that month, whatever month that was.
Okay. Was that this year in 2023?
I would have, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, and you're saying the last hair follicle. Now, the very last hair follicle was, I believe, September of this year, and you were negative, correct? Okay.
Correct.
You're not talking about that
No,
time frame.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, I mean, do you think it might have been January or February of this year? Just any type of time frame?
I believe it was somewhere between, it was when we were still with Miss Rhonda, somewhere between January and March.
Okay. Okay. And it was that the time that they're referring to that you had relapsed?
Yes.
Okay. So that was after you had completed your sessions with Ms. Bain?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you were with Ms. Bain, did you develop a relapse prevention plan with her?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And so what are you doing now to maintain your sobriety?
Since I recently got a car, I'm looking into going back to meetings. I have Miss Luke that testified, or Miss Wade, excuse me, that testified that I can call at any time when I'm having issues. My dad, pretty much everybody in my support system, I can call if I'm having issues with it.
Okay. And so up until now, since January or February, what have you done though to stay clean? Like, have you had any urges? And if so, what have you done to avoid using?
When I was at Santa Maria, they helped me a lot with different coping skills. I try to do a lot of physical activity. I work outside with horses. So, anytime I have issues with anything, anxiety or any of it, I can go next door, mess with the horses, go for walks. I have multiple journals that I can write in, several different apps on my phone that I can use that are mental health based. Playing with any of the animals, video calling the baby, anything to, break that train of thought.
Okay. And you think that's how and why you've been able to stay sober since February or March?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And regarding your mental health evaluations, so are you currently getting any type of treatment for any type of mental health issues?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay. And so what type of treatment have you received in the past?
I've had, to be honest, most of it was through the services that CPS had arranged in the prior case, with different counselors, sessions with different counselors and things like that. Like I said, until my Medicaid gets situated and I figure out if I can do those things still under Medicaid, I absolutely plan on re-enrolling in something with some type of therapist or psychologist or counselor or whatever.
Okay. And I can't remember if we talked about this, but have you been officially diagnosed with anything?
No, ma'am.
So I guess it was the incident back in January when you took the pills, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What was going on around that time?
So, I was having an issue with my mother not letting me contact my older child. And she had just very suddenly put a stop to me having contact with him with no explanation. And she has custody of him. I don't have custody of him, but we were getting to the point where I thought I was going to be able to start visiting. And then she completely cut off all contact and blocked me from having anything to do with him. And it just was really stressful because I had been communicating with him on a daily basis.
And so it's fair to say at that time you just didn't know how to handle that stress and those feelings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so since then, how have you equipped yourself to, handle disappointments and hard times in life and that you don't resort to that type of
not trying to keep things to myself when I have things like that happen, making it a point to reach out and talk to somebody about it, because it helps me to make a better decision on how to handle things. And, being able to reach out for help and not be so embarrassed to admit that I don't know how to handle things.
So when was the last time you were in any counseling for your mental health?
I believe that would have ended when I discharged from Kingwood Pines. That would have been the last time I've seen any type of counselor for mental health.
And was that in January after that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you're saying you do want to engage again in mental health counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. But if you're not able to get that situated with your Medicaid, then what other options would you have?
The problem with the Medicaid that I have is if you have Medicaid, other resources are not as available. So if the Medicaid doesn't cover it, there's really no point in me sticking with that for myself. And then I can just access other resources.
Do you have some other resources in mind?
I know that Ms. Rhonda had given me several packets with different groups and companies that I could get in contact with when we ended the first case. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head.
And did I hear that at one point you were prescribed some medication?
Yes. Prior to the situation in January, I had been seeing a doctor at Holistic Psychiatry in Kingwood. They had prescribed me, I want to say 2 or 3 different medications that I don't recall off the top of my head. But then they were continuously changing them and changing doses, like on a biweekly basis, for about 2 months.
Do you remember what those medications were supposed to be treating you for?
Generalized anxiety, I think. I know one of them was a non-stimulant ADHD. And then some of the ones that she prescribed, I don't think they were not things we had talked about me having issues with. I'm trying to remember the names of some of them. I think some of them were to help me sleep, because at the time I was having a hard time sleeping.
Okay. And this is a provider that you chose on your own, right? This wasn't through CPS, right?
Correct.
Okay. If you could not get things situated with your Medicaid, would you want to engage in the services through CPS again?
I mean, I'm fairly positive that I'll be able to figure something out, but worst case scenario, I mean, I'm not one to turn things down that are beneficial.
Okay. How long have you been working on trying to get back in these services on your own?
Only for about the last month. Just because that was when it was brought to my attention that my Medicaid was not the same as what it used to be. So when that was brought to my attention, then I started trying to pursue if I'm even able to do any of those things. Because I just recently got a car, to do the transportation thing has been difficult.
Okay. And it's my understanding that you have worked something out with Miss Monso, who is the current placement after your son is returned, that you would still like for her to be like a babysitter for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that like every day that you're going to go to work? Is she going to be your regular babysitter?
We're still kind of working that out, because my work schedule is kind of, it doesn't fluctuate, but certain days require certain hours and other days require less. So we would have to sit down and kind of go over the exact details of it, but yes.
Okay. All right. Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dick. Okay. I did not notice when you dropped off, Ms. Dick.
She was talking about a car, I believe. Having a car. In trying to access mental health care. So just to clarify, the voluntary case closure required that you follow up on mental health treatment, correct?
I was not aware that it was required. I thought it was suggested or recommended.
Even though you'd had a suicide attempt? You thought it was suggested?
Categorizes the testimony and the evidence in this case.
Wait, say that again, Ms. Moore, please.
Objecting to her saying that she had a suicide attempt, as that mischaracterizes the evidence and the testimony in this case.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you thought the suggestion of mental health care was just a suggestion, nothing more, even though you signed off on the voluntary case closure?
Yes, ma'am. At the time, I did not have a vehicle. So, I mean, I was not intentionally not following up on it. It was more of a not having the means.
So in March, you did not have a vehicle, even though you were living with Mr. Brown?
I did not have my own vehicle, no.
And he wouldn't give you access to the vehicle to take care of yourself, to get mental health treatment?
He worked very long days, 5 days a week.
Were you working too?
I was doing the same work that I'm doing now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So had you been able to trade off cars or trade off the car or something, you might have been able to work it out, but work prevented both of you from doing that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And just to clarify, all right, so you went to Tri-City recently to get a clear bill of health, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did the same thing in August, September of 2022, correct? Right before you went into Santa Maria?
Yes, ma'am.
And they gave you a clear bill of health?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how long does the evaluation last when you go in there?
I'm not sure.
15 minutes?
Um,
Object to ask and answered.
Sustain.
Had you ever indicated to your counselors that you had a history of depression?
They assumes facts not in evidence about a history of depression. Objection.
Overruled.
I don't recall specifically saying anything like that. No.
Okay. Did you admit to them that you had anxiety?
Objection to
Again,
same facts not withdrawn.
Ma'am?
I don't specifically remember mentioning any of that. No.
Okay, but you did receive medication for anxiety in January, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So did you receive medication for depression?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So depression, anxiety, and ADHD, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this medication that you're referring to, Ms. Brown, was this prescribed by the holistic psychiatry out of Kingwood?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you remember the name of those prescriptions?
I know initially I think they had me on Zoloft, Strattera, and Trazodone, maybe.
All right. Okay, Ms. Dick, you may continue.
Okay. Is it possible that they had you on Wellbutrin
I don't think I ever took Wellbutrin, no.
or Lexapro?
Yes, I think they did do Lexapro during one of the changes.
Okay. And when you say the holistic facility, you're not saying that they were holistic in terms of giving you herb supplements or anything like that. That was just part of the name, correct?
Correct. That was just the name.
Objection calls for speculation and hearsay. She doesn't know.
Overruled.
She only knows what she was told.
Okay. Just one second. So between March and presently, you didn't have transportation. When did you get transportation?
Objection asked and answered last time we were here.
Okay, you got transportation in July, is that correct?
No, ma'am. I just got my car like the day before we did the last court date.
Okay, so October. And did you ever consider asking any of your support system to take you to appointments?
I did, and when they were available, then they did take me places that I needed to go. But as far as being able to consistently schedule anything, that it wasn't really doable.
And what places did you need to go?
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
To pick up items for the baby, basically anything to do with the baby.
Okay. Are you saying today that you'd be willing to do services through FBSS if your Medicaid did not provide that service?
I'm going to object to this question, as she needs to just speak with legal counsel to understand what she would be agreeing to if she answered that question.
Sustained.
Did you comply with the other aspects of your voluntary case closure?
I believe I did. Yes, ma'am.
Such as visitation,
Yes, ma'am.
placement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and on the day that you returned your son to Miss Monso's, how long had you and Mr. Broughton been disagreeing?
At the point that the baby went back, we had not gotten into any argument or confrontation. Things had just gotten tense. There was no unrest in the house while the baby was here.
And how did you anticipate that was coming?
Just the behaviors that we had towards one another at the time.
Such as specifically?
I was frustrated. I didn't feel like we were communicating. And I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I mean, I was getting frustrated at we weren't talking freely like we normally do.
How long had the car been gone at that point?
I'm not sure. I'm not specifically sure what vehicle that Mr. Broughton had at that point.
Did he park it outside every day?
Objection and relevance.
How is that relevant, Ms. Dick?
I'm sorry, it just is surprising that she is not familiar with the car, but all right. So no further questions right at this moment. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Moore?
Yes. So the medication that you were prescribed from the holistic center, what did you eventually learn about the effects of those medications on you?
I mean, I didn't like the effects, the side effects. I didn't like the way that it made me feel. I didn't feel like any of them worked well together, as they had me on 2 to 3 at one time.
And are those the medications that were being flip-flopped around so frequently?
Yes.
And then the flip-flopping around of those medications led to what?
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, it definitely caused a lot of out of control and not coherent thought processes.
Okay. When you were admitted to the hospital, I think it was
Kingwood Pines.
Kingwood Pines. Was it discovered that because you were flip-flopping on so many different medications that could cause suicidal thoughts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The medications that you were prescribed from the holistic place, were any of those take, like the anxiety? Was the anxiety medication take as needed, or was it just take every day?
Take every day.
Okay. Since you've not been on those medicines, and you came off those medicines at Kingwood Pines, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Since you've not been on those medicines, have you found that you are struggling with anxiety?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, have you found that you're struggling with episodes or times in your life where you're really depressed and it's affecting your ability to do what you need to do?
No, ma'am.
Or have you found that you have times where you're just crying for no reason and really sad?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So at this time, you're not feeling the effects of any of those things, right?
Correct.
Now, if you have your son in your home and you're starting to feel those things, what are you going to do?
Call someone.
Like you've done in the past, right?
Correct.
Okay. You previously said you went to Santa Maria because you needed a place to stay. Is that right? Oh, she's frozen.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes, that was correct.
Okay. And Santa Maria was for drug treatment, not mental health treatment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So having gone to Tri-County in August before you went to Santa Maria, that has no consequence on why you went to Santa Maria or what Santa Maria does it?
Correct.
Okay. I do want to ask you one more question, but you'll have to just give me a second because I am trying to find the document I need to ask you that question. I thought I had it marked. Do you know about what time that what was the time range that the VCC went into effect and you started doing the visits with your son?
As far like once they didn't have to be coordinated through CPS.
Right. It was around March. Is that right?
Yeah. So visits were.
Hold on. It was around March. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you received a letter from Rhonda Bynum in this case on March 14th that she stated that should you need any additional assistance, that you can find help from the services listed below. And she listed Tri-County, correct?
Correct.
And she also listed behavioral health solutions, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Tri-County is one of the ones that you reached out to in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
On the VCC that you were given on Appendix 1 of the Voluntary Caregiver Case Closure Plan,
she's reading from a document, not in evidence. I don't think we introduced that. Did you introduce that?
I didn't introduce that, but I can read from any document I want to. It's my client who can't read from a document.
So there has been testimony about the VCC agreement by Ms. Bynum.
All right, thank you.
On that appendix for the voluntary case closure, there was nothing on that indicated that you were required as part of that voluntary case closure to go do anything, was there?
Not that I was aware of.
That voluntary case closure just detailed why the case was closed, and it talked about the plans for meeting the child's future needs. Is that right?
Correct.
And then they had statements of understanding where everybody had to initial that they understood what was happening. And then everybody signed, right?
Correct.
You've been asked questions about willingness to do services or willingness to do counseling. That's something that you would like to do on your own, right?
Correct.
You don't want to do that with CPS, do you?
Not particularly.
You did counseling in the last case with CPS, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had 8 sessions with Joseph Brown. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And 5 of those 8 sessions, you sat there and you watched videos and a TED Talk. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that helpful to you?
Not extremely.
Okay. Would you like to go find somebody on your own that you can do counseling with that actually does talk therapy and not sit you in front of a television to watch TED Talks and videos?
Preferably.
Okay. Do you believe that you will be able to find someone like that? And I can also refer you to people like that instead of using the department's providers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is it your goal right now that you would like to have your son back in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would like to have CPS let you live your life. Is that right? Do you feel fully equipped to be able to continue to stay sober?
Absolutely.
You know what your triggers are, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
You have things that you can do when you feel those triggers to help you not use, basically.
Correct.
Okay. You have a better relationship with Jacob than you did before, right?
Correct.
Okay. You're not anticipating that all of your communication with him going forward about this baby is always going to be daisies, are you?
No.
But
Always,
you do
always going to be what?
daisies, sunshine and daisies.
Okay.
But you do believe that not being in a relationship with him gives you guys, makes it easier for you to communicate. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that you have the tools that you need in order to communicate effectively with him?
Yes, ma'am.
With him not living in the home, does that also help?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that because you can put a stop to a conversation if it starts to get out of control?
Correct.
All right. We've already spoken about, and you have everything you need for the baby there.
Yes, ma'am.
You have your support system.
Yes, ma'am.
You have your job.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've even gotten a car.
Yes, ma'am.
So since last year, you have made some pretty big changes in your life, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
This case is not like the last case from 2022, is it?
Not really.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
Yes, sir, quickly. What is the name of the holistic doctor that you went to, or the holistic clinic that you went to?
I believe the specific doctor. Is that what you're asking?
The clinic.
The clinic's name was Holistic Psychiatry.
And if you remember the doctor's name?
Nancy Johnson.
Okay. And just quickly to be clear, like, why did you choose this one? Were you looking for something that was more natural and healthy?
Sort of, and then realized that it wasn't.
Right. That got me confounded. Not on your part, on their part. Okay, and you said earlier, to be honest, you didn't do anything in terms of your mental health care until CPS got involved. That was your earlier testimony.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't have the resources, did you?
No, ma'am.
You also had no exposure nor knowledge prior to that, correct?
Correct.
And now you have the understanding that it's so important for you, right? When you need it.
Yes, ma'am.
You understand it does and can work for you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McGee.
Thank you, Judge. Very briefly, Ms. Brown, you said that since you left Kingwood Pines in January, you haven't used those medications again, right?
Correct.
Okay. Were you using, were they administering any medication to you during your time at Kingwood Pines?
I believe I turned down medication while I was there. I don't remember taking medication there.
Okay. And when you were discharged, did you receive any type of discharge recommendations or anything like that?
They recommended that I get back with a mental health provider, but given their opinion of the circumstances, I told them, like, they request a doctor's name that you're going to discharge to, and I told them I didn't really have one because I didn't want to go back to that doctor.
Okay. But they were recommending that you follow up with the mental health provider?
Yes.
Okay. But you haven't been able to do so because of the Medicaid issue?
And transportation, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has CPS offered that and you've turned it down since January?
I don't believe anything specific was offered after I completed the services that they had asked me to do in the first case.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dick.
Ms. Brown, had you been in Kingwood Pines before?
No, ma'am.
Had you been in a mental health facility before?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You don't recall any time over the last 10 years?
Object asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. How long have you sober at this point in time?
Object to asked and answered many times.
Okay, so you've been sober from February to now, October. Is that the longest time you've been sober in your life?
No, ma'am.
When was the last time that you were sober for a longer period?
Object to relevance and
Well,
repetitive. Party.
Overruled, and I do want to hear the question about sobriety, because I think questions heretofore have been about any meth use since the February hair follicle. So overruled. So I need answers to 2 questions.
Can you repeat the questions?
Okay, so you were sober from February through today. And when was the last time that you were sober for a longer period than this 10-month period? I may have those numbers wrong. Or 8 months.
The start date of the longest time was November 11th, 2014. And I was sober for almost 3 years.
And did you have a relapse in 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you were sober again?
I'm sorry, I made an objection.
I'm making the same objection. We're going way far back. This child is a toddler.
Was it relevance?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Sustained.
And I'm again just showing a pattern of it's been a long period of time.
Objection to council sidebar comments.
Same.
Sustained.
Okay. So at this point in time, your support network consists of Ms. Wade, Ms. Monso, and your father. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you and Mr. Broughton discussed child support?
No, ma'am, not specifically.
And do you know if he's working or not?
To my knowledge, he is.
And what type of work does he normally do?
It varies.
So what would be the range of income?
That I have no even approximate answer for you. I don't know.
So you delegated that to him?
Ma'am.
When you were together, that was just his business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No other questions?
All right, thank you.
At this, for now, no other questions.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Moore.
I just have 2 more exhibits I'd like to enter as 5 and 6. I just sent them to the parties.
I have no objection to the first exhibit. The second exhibit doesn't have signatures, and I don't really know if it's the most recent or complete. So I would object to that.
I can't get them to send to you on text.
As to 5 and 6.
Yes, Judge, I have no objections. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Ms. Iverson?
No, sir, I don't have any objections.
Right, thank you. Ms. Dick,
Well, Your Honor, I apologize after rereading it. I wouldn't object if the whole document were in here.
are you referring to 5 or 6?
I believe 6. If the
Are you okay with 5?
I believe so. Let me go back and look.
You had mentioned earlier 1 not having signatures, or all the signatures.
That was 6. And my response to that, Judge, is that this is a form that was created by the department and given to my client, the copies that she testified that she signed. Now, these copies were not included in all of the information that CPS gave me. So because
Stand by. I'm waiting to hear if there are any objections from the department on 5.
No objections on 5.
All right, so respondent mother's number 5 is hereby admitted without objections. All right, so let us know of any objections regarding 6, Ms. McGee, then Ms. Iverson, then Ms. Dick.
I have no objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, I would simply ask that the whole PCSP resource guide with the appendix be included.
Okay. Ms. Iverson, any objections to 6?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So if there's not, is this a PCSP from a prior case? In other words, prior to March?
This is the voluntary, this is the VCC that everybody's been talking about from January of 2023. The problem
So
is,
it's not a PCSP, it's the VCC.
yes, but it comes from a PCSP resource guide that's 35 pages long. Now, these documents, it's 3 pages that I have, were given to my client. The department didn't include these 3 pages or any of the 35 pages in the discovery that they've turned over to me. So I don't have.
Is that document paginated?
Is it paginated? Yes, it's 26, 27, and 28
I mean,
of the
you
35.
don't get to use that word very often.
It's 26, 27, and 28 of the 35. They didn't provide any of the 35 to me. So all my client has is what was given to her.
Okay.
I mean, they have the 35. If they want to put the rest in, they can.
Okay. And how is it relevant?
It's relevant because the department's attorney asked questions about it being a requirement that she do certain things on the VCC to mislead, I believe, the court, and that's not actually on the VCC.
Well, I don't know about all of that, but what are your objections further, if any, Ms. Dick?
I would just like to see the entire document, and I had not seen this document either until today. So I understand that she may be frustrated for not having it, but I had not seen it.
I'd love to see it as well, but it's the department's possession, not mine.
But I can certainly, find the entire document and submit it as a whole.
All right. Any objections to my reviewing it?
No, sir.
No.
Objection.
And actually, if you want to review 5, if it's been admitted, that's fine as well.
Okay. No, just 6. 5 is admitted. Are you going to publish 5?
I wasn't.
Okay.
Just for you to look at. I can publish it.
My coordinator stepped away. So is there any way if Ms. Williams, Ms. Dick, if you don't mind, Ms. Williams, maybe sending 5 and 6 to me? But I'll look at 6 rather right now.
All right. That's fine. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to wait on 6. Again, how many pages is 6? 3? Was it 3?
35. My 6 is 3. The total is 35. Exhibit 6 has 3 pages.
Right.
Of 35.
So it's the VCC section from the
Parental Child Safety Placement Resource Guide.
CSP brochure guide. Okay. Like off the department website?
No, it's actually their form that they fill out. They fill in all of the information. It's all typed in, and then everybody signs it.
All right.
It's an appendix, but apparently it comes out of the Parental Child Safety Placement Resource Guide because that's what's on the top right. But it's a form.
Okay. Can you continue with 5, or do you want to wait for me to look at 6?
I can continue with 5.
All right. You may.
Ms. Broughton, do you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Or Ms. Brown, sorry. This is the letter that you got from the department from Rhonda Bottom, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right here. That's who you've already gone to at their suggestion.
Correct.
We already had testimony about behavioral health services and your how come they couldn't serve you, correct?
Correct.
As of March 13th, 2023, CPS didn't feel the need to list anything here for any drug services.
Correct.
That you can tell, correct? Because they don't have it. So would that lead you to believe that in March of 2023, when this letter was written and sent, that they didn't have concerns about your drug use?
Correct.
But now today it's allegedly the pattern and it makes a big difference. Is that right?
Right.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Brown?
I have one question.
All right.
Okay. At any point in time, Ms. Brown, did the department say it was fine for you to take your child home?
At what point?
At the time that you were going over this voluntary case closure, Were you told that you could take your child home at any time?
Objection
No.
calls for hearsay.
Was it your understanding?
Objection calls for hearsay.
We're overruled. But maybe I need to look at the VCC on this issue. Ms. Dick, do you still have the same objections on 6?
At this point, I will waive those objections, Your Honor.
Well,
Okay.
at this point, I would like to get the rest of the 35 pages. So I'm going to withdraw my exhibit. Because there is more out there, they just haven't provided. These are just the only 3 pages I have.
All right, so the court will note that Ms. Moore has withdrawn her offer of respondent mothers number 6. All right. Any other questions of Ms. Brown, Ms.
Yes.
Moore, and then we'll go around the circle again.
What was your understanding of the transition of the child back to the home?
Between Nikki and Ms. Monso and I, we were instructed to pick a specific date at which the child could come home.
CPS instructed you of that.
Yes.
Okay. Who within CPS?
Miss Bynum.
Okay. And that's what started those 2 visits to transition the child back, right?
Correct.
Wesley.
All right, thank you, Ms. Iverson, Ms. McGee, and then Ms. Dick.
Nothing further at this point, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, just one
That's
question.
fine. That's fine.
Okay, so thank you, Judge. So Ms. Brown, so just so I'm clear, the case was closed and your son was still in the home of Ms. Monso, correct?
At what point?
I guess that was January of 2023.
Are you speaking to the case itself, or the VCC had its own ending date? Sorry.
Well, the case itself, I guess when CPS stopped working services with you, right? When did that stop?
March.
In March. Okay. And in March, was your son still with Ms. Monso?
Yes.
And after CPS was completely out, you and Ms. Monso worked together to determine a transition back into your home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You and Ms. Monso worked that out just between yourselves.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And then you guys were still in this transition when the incident occurred in, I guess, was it June? And you took him back to live there full time, correct?
Correct.
How much time was he spending with you during the transition?
He had only done 2 transition visits that were roughly 3 to 4 days long prior to the incident in June. Prior to that, his visits were done at Nikki's still.
Okay, so for 2 weeks, he had spent like 3 or 4 days at a time?
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dick.
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Moore.
When did the VCC end?
July, either the 1st of July or the 4th or 5th of July. I'm not sure the specific date.
Okay, so sometime in July.
Correct.
Okay. The incident in June, you took him back to live there. Was it your intention for him to stay there forever?
No.
What was your intention?
To get him out of a uncomfortable situation.
Okay. And then once you got out of that uncomfortable situation, you wanted him to come back. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, CPS filed their case?
Yes.
At any point, when the case was filed, and it looks like they signed their affidavit the 2nd of August, but they were involved in talking to the family beginning in June. So at any point between June and August, did CPS tell you that you couldn't have him in your home?
Objection calls for hearsay.
It's a statement by a party opponent.
Overruled, you may answer.
Can you repeat the question?
At any point between June and August, when this case was filed, did CPS tell you you couldn't have him in your home?
I mean, I don't remember them specifically saying it like that, but I was under the impression that I could not just go get him.
Did the department set up visits for you?
After a while, yes.
Okay. When did those visits get set up?
About 9 days after about 9 days after the June 16th.
And that's because they wanted those visits supervised at the department, or were those visits supervised by Nikki at that point?
By the department.
Okay. Is that the reason that you believe that you couldn't have him back in your home?
Yes.
Did anybody ever tell you that if you had him back in your home, it would be cause for removal or anything like that?
I don't believe anybody specifically said that, but I felt that it was insinuated or referred.
Okay. And just the conversations that you had?
Yes.
All right. Pass witness.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Brown?
Ms. Brown, I have a couple of questions. Weren't you visiting him at Ms. Monso's between the time that he was left and the time that they moved visitation to CPS?
I might have. I don't believe that I did, because I thought at that point Nikki had said she did not want the visits at her home.
Okay, and do you know why she didn't want the visitations at her home?
Objection, speculation, objection calls for hearsay.
I'm asking if she knew.
Well, she would know by hearsay or speculation.
Thanks.
Okay. Were you and Mr. Broughton engaged in frequent texting at that time?
Objection, relevance?
Overruled.
I don't believe we were in communication at that point, no.
Were you texting Ms. Monso about the situation with Mr. Brown frequently?
I did
That's
talk.
irrelevant again.
Overruled.
I did have a couple conversations with Nikki about what was going on.
Okay. And how did she respond?
Objection, hearsay.
Object to hearsay.
Yep.
Sustained.
Withdrawn. Thank you. No other questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Brown?
Oh, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Brown, remind me, back in January, I guess towards the end of January of this year, your hospitalization was precipitated by a suicide attempt. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I believe there was some testimony that it was an overdose of some maybe 50 or more prescription pills.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So were those some of the meds prescribed by Nancy Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, remind me, where was Jacob Jr. at that time?
He was still in a PCP at Miss Monso's.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Dick, you may call your next.
At this time, I'd like to call Carol Bain.
Before she called her a judge, I do have some objections.
Objection to Ms. Bain.
To her testimony.
All right, let's hear them.
As you know, I've requested all the documents. I have been provided from the department the chemical dependency assessment that Ms. Bain did in August of 2022. I specifically asked my client the question, had she done more than that? Because I don't have reports from anything else from Ms. Bain. And in fact, when you go through the CPS record, even the contacts the department has had with Ms. Bain are redacted out. So the only thing that I have is the chemical dependency test. I don't have a problem with her testifying to that, except for the objection that it's irrelevant because of its age. But outside of that, I have objections because I don't have the information.
Okay, and so this was a drug and alcohol assessment?
It appears to be.
All right, so, okay. All right. Do you plan on offering anything other than the drug and alcohol assessment, if at all, Ms. Dick?
I plan to offer testimony regarding the circumstances of her going to Santa Maria.
Okay,
She was looking for housing.
Okay, wait a minute. So that sounds like a no.
I'm sorry?
That sounded like a no. My question was, do you expect to offer any other document other than the drug and alcohol assessment?
No.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to bring.
Well, Judge, I just want to make it clear. I wasn't talking about the document. I was talking about testimony about anything outside of the document, because I don't have the notes of her sessions, which is what I've been requesting all this time, is all the service provider notes. So I can't look and see if what she's saying is what she documented or what the circumstances were around it outside of this assessment.
All right, I'm going to overrule any objection to her testifying, but then I'll field objections as they come, if at all.
May I have 30 seconds?
You may.
Okay, it's been a while since I put something in. I wanted to offer this chemical dependency assessment into the record as petitioner's exhibit 1, but it's been a while since I've done that. So
Judge, I'm going to object to that. Number 1, it's stale. This is an assessment from August of 2022. Number 2, it contains hearsay statements. They haven't been redacted. If they're being offered as a business record, they also were not provided to me in the required time frame to be able to use them under that subsection.
All right, thank you. Any objections, Ms. Iverson and then Ms. McGee?
No, sir.
No objection.
Your Honor, I didn't file a business record affidavit with this.
I just threw it out there just in case.
I was just offering it as an exhibit. There are admissions in here from the mother, but I don't. This is basically an interview from the mother. I've not seen the hearsay. I would ask that she specify the hearsay if she's going to object to it.
I will be happy to go through all 5 pages right now and reread it and give you the specific hearsay. It's hearsay within hearsay. Also,
Okay, we can obviously. I'm
feel
not gonna,
irrelevant based on the time.
I'm not going to take time to do that today, so I'll defer any ruling on petitioners number 1. You all will have time to redact it, quibble about it between now and our reset, if at all. So with that, you may proceed.
Okay, and can you tell us about your educational background, please?
I have a master's in counseling, and I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor for the state of Texas since 2001.
Okay, and what types of services do you normally provide for the state?
Substance abuse assessments and individual substance abuse counseling.
All right, and did you do a substance abuse assessment on Ms. Brown in September of 2022? Actually, it was August of 2022.
Yes, ma'am, I did, August 11th.
Okay, and did Ms. Brown make any admissions regarding her drug use?
She made admissions about her past.
Objection, non-responsive. After she made admissions.
Sustained.
Okay. What type of admissions did she make?
When she started using methamphetamine and alcohol.
And when approximately did she start using?
I'm going to object, Judge, to this testimony, as again, we are talking about things that happened a long time ago, specifically an assessment that was over a year ago. My client's already given a negative hair follicle.
Well, I'm going to overrule because I'm going to have to make a ruling relative to any significant risk. And so for me, that may factor in to the term significant. So overruled, you may answer.
The question again, please.
Okay, let's see.
And I also want to make sure that these are questions that come off of the substance abuse assessment. Otherwise, my objection is going to be that I don't have the counseling records. They didn't provide them, and they're not able to ask questions on evidence they didn't provide. Or discovery they didn't provide.
Let's move on.
I agree. Sorry, Judge. Objection, best evidence. It's not full document.
Overruled. We're moving on.
that.
Ask the question again, please.
Okay, so when did she indicate that she had started using drugs and alcohol?
She started using methamphetamine in 2014 intravenously.
All right, and did she indicate that she had gone to drug treatment previously?
Can I get a time frame on when this indication was made?
Okay, during the time of the assessment, did she indicate that she had gone for treatment previously?
Yes, she had.
Okay, and how long was she in treatment? What year was that? Sorry.
Oh, that's good. She was at the park for 28 days, Memorial Herman the Park.
Okay, and did she indicate what year that was?
I do not have it in here.
Okay. So at the time of the assessment, did the client admit that she had been, and this is in August of 2022, did she indicate that she had been positive for any drugs?
Objection. Relevance for what she was positive for in August of 2022.
Also calls for hearsay because you would be told these things
The same.
by a non-party.
I couldn't hear that last part of what Ellis said.
Hearsay.
You would be told, yeah.
Okay.
And I
And
sustained it. I sustained as to hearsay. In terms of the mother relaying any drug results, drug test results.
so although it's an admission, it's hearsay.
That was my ruling, yes.
Did you find the mother credible?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
And why was that?
Because I had copies of drug tests.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Why did you make a recommendation that she go to Santa Maria?
Because when
Objection.
I
Calls for facts, not in evidence.
Overruled.
Additionally, that recommendation, I do not see in the recommendations on this chemical dependency assessment.
It also will call for hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
what was the question again?
Okay. Why did you make it the recommendation that she go to Santa Maria in August 2022?
Did she continue to use?
Objection. Calls for hearsay and speculation.
An expert opinion.
Why did you believe that she continued to use?
Overruled.
Your Honor, can we get, okay.
Overruled.
Why did you believe that she continued to use?
Because I get drug results.
Objection. Hearsay.
Now it's sustained.
Did the mother make an admission that she had been using?
Time frame.
Within the month of August, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, can I get an exact time frame? Was that on the chemical dependency assessment?
No, this is when I met with her for the month of August.
I'm going to object to anything from her meetings that aren't on the chemical dependency assessment. The court asked the department to turn over the notes. I don't have them.
Sustained. So, Ms. Bain, are you saying she told you this in a session subsequent to the intake or assessment?
Yes, sir. Well, I met with. Mm-hmm.
All right, sustained. Next question.
Why do you normally recommend that someone go to drug treatment, inpatient drug treatment?
Objection. Relevance.
Overruled. You may answer.
Because they continue to keep using, and if they can't stop, I do recommend they go to residential so they can get the help they need.
How long did Ms. Brown stay at Santa Maria?
Objection. Hearsay. Unless she works at Santa Maria.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection unless the mother told her, and I don't see time-wise how that could have happened. So let me know if it did. But otherwise, Sustained.
All right. When the mother left Santa Maria, did she contact you?
No, ma'am. I hadn't seen the mother since.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained after no, ma'am.
Based on your assessment, did you think that the mother would be successful?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Was it your understanding that the mother had a good relationship with Mr. Brown?
Objection, relevance.
With Mr. Broughton?
Objection, relevance. Objection, speculation.
Oh, sustained unless the mother told her.
Did the mother describe her relationship with Mr. Broughton?
Can I get a time frame?
In August of 2022.
I'm going to object to anything outside of the chemical dependency report on August 11th because I don't have the records.
All right. So I believe the testimony was the intake or the assessment occurred on August the 14th. So during that assessment or that intake, did the mother tell you anything about her relationship with the father of the child, Mr. Broughton?
Judge, based on the assessment, it happened on the 11th, not the 14th. If that matters, I don't know when they had sessions.
Well,
so.
it does. It does. So then August the 11th. That's when the intake was, or the assessment, Ms. Fain?
Yes, sir. August the 11th.
All right. So did the mother tell you anything about her relationship with the father?
Not on August the 11th.
All right.
No.
Thank you. Next question. Thank you.
No other questions. I'll pass witness at this time. I may call her back as a rebuttal witness, and which was originally my intent here.
Okay. Then Ms. Moore?
You have not recently in the year 2023 seen my client or talked to her, have you?
No, ma'am.
So you don't know anything current that's going on in her life. You don't know anything current about her sobriety, do you?
No, ma'am.
All of the information that you have on her is over a year old. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, you are not a drug expert, are you? As far as drug test results?
I know how to read drug test results.
Okay, well, I mean, a layperson can look at a drug test result and tell if it's positive or negative, correct?
Correct.
Okay, as far as how the testing works, how long drugs stay in the system, you're not an expert on that, are you?
Well, I can pretty much tell you how long they stay in the system,
But you're
depending.
not an expert in that area, are you?
Okay, I guess not then.
Okay, you're not a doctor, are you?
No.
You don't test samples from people through the machines that they have, any of that, do you?
No.
You don't interpret the results of any drug testing, do you? That calls for a doctor.
Correct.
Okay. We aren't going to talk about the results of any drug testing. We are going to talk about the fact that you didn't find her credible, according to your testimony. You were aware that she had taken 2 drug tests, correct?
Correct.
And on those 2 drug tests, you were aware that the levels of the drug were going down, correct?
On the second one, correct.
Okay. You actually didn't make the recommendation in this chemical dependency assessment that she go to Santa Maria, did you?
Well,
yes or no?
No.
Okay. The recommendation that you made was that she do substance abuse individual counseling starting with 8 units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
No questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McGee.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Dick, back to you.
All right. When did you make the recommendation that she go to Santa Maria?
Objection. I don't have records that indicate that.
Are you sure that you don't have case records that indicate that?
Only records that I have is the chemical dependency assessment.
Objective sidebar.
All right. Sustained. Sustained. I sustained the objection. Next question.
No further questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anyone for Ms. Bain?
Would like to ask that she be subject to recall.
All right, Ms. Bain, you shall be subject to recall, but you are excused for the day. So I want to thank you for your time and your patience and your assistance in this matter, but you are excused for today, subject to recall. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Broughton.